understanding that science. Then we want to increase our resilience level and increase our happiness level, and therefore live a fulfilled life in what I call Happy Land. So please join us to migrating to Happy Land. So I've broken down the workshop into different parts. So the part that we're going to go through today is going to be misconception about happiness. So to be on our way to happiness, we first need to know what is not a way. So we're going to eliminate all the misconception that most people have about happiness. So all of the stuff that I'm putting together for the workshop comes from mainly 6 of my amazing teachers for this topic. So these are my amazing, amazing teachers. So now I would love to have everyone to score yourself on the following criteria. So each of them is a 1 to 10 point scale. So for positive emotion from 1 to 10, how many points do you think you have currently? For engagement, for relationship, for meanings, for accomplishments, for health. And then for negative emotions, it's going to be a negative number. And then for loneliness, it's also going to be a negative number. So let's take a few minutes to just have a quick review on your overall well-being and happiness index.
I have one question, Candy.
Yes, please.
So engagement and meaning. Would you please describe like engagement with the work or engagement with like any area of life?
Okay, perfect. Thank you for your question, Falguni. So it's engagement in the moment. So whatever you're doing, are you engaged with what you're doing?
Okay.
So meaning is the meanings that you assign to things, people, like, you know, things happen and then you're going to interpret it and then you're going to assign a meaning. So how much of that is a positive meaning that you assign to things that happens in your life? So if you're done, you can just give me like a brief shout out of where the range is for your numbers.
Okay, I got a 41.
41, did you add them up together?
Yeah.
So, okay. So did you add them up and then subtract the bottom 2?
Yeah.
Okay. So is it kind of like a 7 and 8 for the ones above?
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh,
my
okay.
lowest one is a 5, and then I have 8s, 9s, and a couple of 7s.
Perfect.
Mine is a 55.
So I have a question about the
Yes.
Go
please.
ahead, Waylon.
No. I'm sorry. You go ahead. I was just answering Candy's question about the numbers. You have a question? Please ask.
Oh, so with the negative ones, like negative emotion, if on a scale of 1 to 10, you're, let's say, a 3, do you subtract 3?
Actually, we don't have to add it up. It's just going to be a 1 to 10 scale for each item.
Oh, okay.
Oh, okay, great. Okay.
So it's just basically a good review on each of these things. Some of them we do better, some of them we don't do as well. And we can look for ways to improve our overall well-being and happiness. So it's basically for your own reference.
Okay. And so if you're not lonely, that would be a 0, right?
Exactly. Perfect. Yes, exactly. Perfectly correct.
So I have my number.
Yes, please. Please share.
Post them in the chat.
Yeah, sure. Please post them in the chat. So I have a sense of where everyone's at. Perfect. Yeah, you can add them too if that makes sense to you. Awesome. So I assume everyone is pretty much done with this part. Am I correct?
Mhm.
Okay. So what do you think of your overall well-being? Is it better than what you thought you were? Is it worse? Is it pretty much at where you expected? Or is it something that you never quite thought about or didn't know that engagement could be related to happiness or things like that?
Pretty much what I thought it was.
Great.
I mean, it's nice to know this. Yeah.
Yeah. So basically these are
It's
gonna
also tough.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. It's tough if you, like, on certain things, if you're self-critical, like accomplishments.
Right, exactly.
So
these are the things that are highly relevant to our overall well-being, or let's say happiness. So these are also going to be the areas that we're going to be working on for the coming up few weeks, however long this is going to take. So are we ready to move on to the next part?
Yes.
Awesome.
yes.
So my next question for you is, what brings you happiness? So make a list of things that you think brings you happiness. And then the second question I have is observing people around you. What do you think they think bring them happiness? So we're trying to get a collective sense of the universe, like in the world. What do people think that would actually bring them happiness? What are people going after for happiness?
I think currently most people want connections.
That's very true at this COVID time.
People think money makes them happy.
Absolutely. That is definitely number one thing. If you were to ask everyone on the world, I would think majority of the people would say money.
Yes.
And I think most people want equality
Equality,
and peace.
peace. Yep.
And one thing with the money, with what Goddess of Healing was saying, I think that people have the misconception of what they want to be happy is money, but actually probably what they are looking for is the security or the things that they will be able to do and experience and live if they have the financial freedom. So I think that is a misconception that everybody rushes to say, oh, more money. But the reality is what they are going to be doing with that money, or what that money will be able to give them on around freedom and other things.
Exactly. So you all have a list? Yes, Angie.
So for me, it's not money, it's clients. I really want clients so that I can make an impact and make a difference.
Yeah. So
and then hopefully from there, the money will come.
Yes. By adding value to your clients.
It will. It's not hopefully. That's the law. It will come.
Yes, it will. Very certain. Love. Perfect. All right. So let's just talk about what most people think and see if it match part of your list. So research has shown that most people think these 5 things are going to bring them happiness. So a good job, which kind of lead to money and achievements. Second one, money. The third one, awesome stuff. Number 4, true love. Number 5, perfect body or perfect face. So that is kind of like where we're at. As a collective consciousness, most people believe that these things bring them happiness. And we're going to talk about why these 5 things don't, or not in a way that we believe they do. So the first part, we're going to talk about misconceptions. Yes.
Now, you know what is interesting, that when you get around people mind that think like you, like in this sisterhood or with people evolved like you stop being aware that this is the majority of the people. Because
Exactly.
like right now, I will never think that these 5 things were like what bring me happiness, just because I think that we are in a different level. But it also bring perspective to like see yourself in the mirror and say, yeah, even when that is not reality, we are actually a very small percentage of the world still, and the majority of the world is still driving by things like this. Very interesting.
Thank you. Elizabeth asked if they're in order. No, they're not in order. I think if they were in order, I would guess that money would be number 1. That would be my guess. So, well, thank you very much, Joanna, for pointing out that our list might be very different from this list, but however, we still have parts of us where we have misconceptions about these things. So, like you said, money, security, and things like that. And surprisingly, the science actually says other ways. So even if money is a means to get to an end of, let's say, security, food, so on and so forth, there's actually science that shows us that actually it could be different than what we thought and imagined. So let's move on to the first one, which was a good job. So this was a study done in 1998. How does college students feel when they're turned down from a paid job they really, really want? Okay. So they're going to predict before they receive that news, and then they're going to predict after it actually happened. So on a scale 1 to 10, very simple scale. Okay, so if they discover that it was because of a fair decision that they didn't get the job that they really wanted, they expected that it would be a drop of 2.1 points in a 10-point scale, which is pretty drastic. But actually, the drop in happiness is only 0.68. So what this data is saying that when we predict something bad is happening, that we didn't get the job that we want, we predicted that in a way that it's going to affect our happiness hugely. But when it actually happened, that impact is a lot smaller than what we expected, is what this data is trying to tell us. And if we have a way to justify for some reasons why we didn't get that paid job, it's because I wasn't prepared, or it was because they're looking for a man and I'm a woman. So if in some way we're able to justify why we didn't get that job, our actual drop in happiness actually becomes 0. It does not affect our happiness as soon as we find a way to justify why we didn't get the job that we really wanted. But however, when we predicted it, we thought it's going to be almost a 2-point drop. Again, our prediction is quite far off than what actually happens in our happiness scale. So it's a little bit of catastrophizing when we predict it. And when it actually happened, the impact is actually not as bad. So how does that speak to our misconception about a good job bringing happiness? Is that when we don't get it, our happiness doesn't actually get impacted. So it's in a negative way that it is not highly correlated. And that also suggests that in a positive way, even if we get it, we're going to predict a huge rise in happiness, which in reality, it's not going to be as big as we envisioned it. Yeah? Mm-hmm. Am I clear? Yeah?
Yes. Yes.
Great. Okay. So that would cross out why we think job in general is such a big deal of our happiness. So positively or negatively, actually, it does not impact us as much as we thought we would be impacted.
Makes sense.
Any question about this one? No? Very clear?
Well, it's a question mark.
Yes.
So what does it mean?
So what does the question mark mean?
Is it in relation to something?
It is just for a reminder for me to check if there's any questions if I have been clear.
Okay.
Yeah, okay, let's move on to number 2. Number 2 was money, was a big one. So this study in 2008 asked people, how much salary do you need? Okay, for people who are currently earning 30K, they say, okay, I need a jump to 50K. Yeah, makes sense, maybe a less than doubling up. And then for people who are earning 100K, they said 250K. So what does that mean?
The more you make, the more you spend.
The more you make, the more you want to make.
Okay.
So the more you make, you actually create like a much bigger jump for yourself. So it's even more, so you feel even less, because when you're here, you feel like you should be here. Okay, it's kind of reachable. You know, if I work double the time, if I do this, if I do that, I kind of get there when you're at 30K. But when you're at 100K, then your goal is up here, then you feel like you're really not making enough money. So the more you make, the more you want to make. At the same time, you feel like you're not making enough. So it's kind of like a mind trap, because you would think that the more you make, the closer you are to your goal. But our mind does play a trick on us that the more you make, the more that you feel like you're not there yet.
Can I share something about that?
Yes, please.
I was one of my mentors is the president of Lilly. It's a pharmaceutical company here in the United States, very big one. And in one of our coaching sessions, he asked me that. He said, Joanna, how much is enough for you and your husband? And then we start talking about that, and he said exactly that. He said, you need to decide that number now. Because if you don't decide that number now that you are growing, you will never get it. And he said, that is, why do you think that some of the presidents and the billionaires and some of these people that had a lot of money keep making more money and keep working and working and working? Is because what you were saying, because if you don't have that number clear, then it becomes that never is enough, because you are always looking for something else. You are always looking for, okay, I can make a couple more of millions. I can make a couple more of $1 billion. So yeah, you just make me remind me of his advice of make sure that you have clear how much money is enough for you before you have it. So, you know.
Yes, that is exactly what our mind is doing. It's basically always moving the goal. So once we get close to, let's say 50K, we're going to move the post. So we're like kind of like in a chase where we never get to where we thought we want to make and how much we need, because that term becomes relative instead of an absolute term, like Joanna said. So when you're at 50K, then your reference point change, right? And then you want more. So that's basically what we do instinctively.
Candy, can I say something? I think that you shouldn't pigeonhole yourself. I think you should do what you enjoy and love, and then money comes with it.
Yes, that's
Right.
that's definitely the mindset we have here. We're also interested in learning what other people might experience as a challenge, or how we can help people around us to see this differently, to have more perspective. But definitely in this sisterhood, we're like-minded people. We think, okay, the most important thing is to serve, is to add value to our clients, is to do the thing that we're passionate for, to live our mission, and then don't worry about the money. The money's gonna come. But most people don't work that way. Sadly, most people don't work that way. Yeah.
True.
Yeah. Okay. So this is just an interesting data saying that how much money did people spend in US lottery ticket in 2015? So it's 70.15 billion. That's the combined, more than the combined of books, music, movie tickets, sport tickets, video games combined. So that's how much people want money. That's how bad it is.
That is how much people want easy, fast money.
Yes, free money. And they would actually, because most people don't get it, right? Most people don't win the lottery, but they rather spend it on the lottery ticket than to have a good time with a book. Isn't that funny? That's how people value things.
Or they would make more if they invested.
Exactly. Or they
savings
invest
account.
in themselves. Yeah. Very true.
Yeah,
So
and
this is
myself.
very fascinating.
Yeah.
How crazy is that, right? How crazy. I would rather play video game, even though I don't like video game. I'm like, that's something to do. That's a new experience. But no, we should put it into lottery ticket, right?
Yes.
Yes. So, and then this is, and oh, my PowerPoint messed up, but that's okay. Okay, so this was an interview that was done in 2 time points. First time in 1967, second time in 2005, and see what people value. So in 1967, people thought that 70% of the people think that it was very important. Oh no, it was, yes. So 71% of the people thought it was very important to develop a meaningful philosophy of life. And only 52% thought that they need to be very well off financially. However, in 2005, the numbers flipped. 86% of the people thought that they need to be very well off financially. Only 42% of the people thought they should value developing a meaningful philosophy of life. So in the past 4 decades or so, a lot has changed. People value different things. So that brings me to the question I became very curious about. What is the actual correlation between life satisfaction and income, since everyone is so focused on money and income? I was curious. So what exactly is the correlation? So in psychology, if the correlation is 1, it means it's perfectly correlated. So if A happens, B happens. That's a 1 point correlation. And then if it's like a 0.0001, it's basically not correlated. Like you can't find where the correlation is. The stuff is everywhere. You can't tell whether one thing is correlated to another thing, yeah? So the answer is 0.1 in the US. So I'd say not very correlated. So a 1-point scale correlation is going to be like a perfect correlation. 0.1 on the top right corner is going to be like all scatter. It's a very weak correlation. So with that much focus we put on money, with that much focus we put on income, it actually is not highly correlated with our life satisfaction. So that's kind of where the misconception is.
And I also read in the US at least that it also depends on the level of income that you are. So if you are between 20,000 and 30 or 40,000, then the correlation is a little bigger because you are still covering basic needs. But after you go above $75,000 per year, then the correlation just drops, because then it doesn't impact more having your lifestyle.
I'm starting to think that you looked at my PowerPoint before I shared it. Thank you. Yes. So again, income doesn't have that much impact on happiness. And then it goes to the difference between like poor nations and rich nations, and then income of a family. And again, money for basic needs that Joanna just helped me describe earlier, just right before I showed the slides. And so they were looking for what exactly is the amount that money has no more impact on happiness. So the more money you get, it doesn't get you more happiness. It's 75K USD per year. Right. Yes, per year. Yes, correct. So that would, I think, cover basic needs like food, shelter, a car, basic health insurance and stuff like that. So of course, when you're really living in poverty, then medication is a problem, all sorts of things are a problem, then money actually increase your happiness because it increase your life chance of survival and food and safety and things like that. But anything beyond that, actually, money doesn't get us anywhere in terms of happiness. So again, this is like to look back. in 1940s, how do people have dinner? They actually talk, right? They actually sit down together. They actually share the food. They pass the salt and things like that. So average happiness was 7.5. And in 2015, people are just mainly focused, a lot of families, not every family, a lot of families are gonna be using their own phone and computer during they eat. They might not even have like a time where they sit down and eat together. It's kind of like you do your thing, I do my thing. And you can see in the picture also, besides the improvement in terms of money, we're more rich definitely now. It's also like the technology and the stuff that's around us. We have a lot more stuff. We have microwave, coffee maker, computers, phones, all that stuff that we didn't quite have. And the happiness level actually have gone down because all of the stuff like money, awesome stuff didn't really get us to where we wanted to be. So happiness level actually have dropped in the past 6 decades. And I'm sure that we all know that depression has gone up, anxiety has gone up, suicidal rate has gone up, divorce rate has gone up. All these things have gone up in the past couple of decades. So in general, with time, people have become less happy. They have a greater risk of depression and greater risk of social pathology.
What's social pathology?
Different problems. It could be family problem, communication problem. It could be like physical illness. It could be people not fitting in the family. It could be bullying. It could be the challenge that we're currently seeing right now about equality and things like that. So everything that's happening within the society that's kind of problematic. Okay, so that would be our part of the misconception about money that most people have. Do we have any questions on that or feedback?
I have a question. I would think that, I mean, maybe it was the 1940s, the level of happiness was similar. I'm curious as if it was 1950, if the level of happiness would have been higher because, you know, the man is back in the home working, the wife is at home taking care of the kids. There's more connection and relationships with the families, and the cost of insurance hasn't gone up like it has now, which means only one parent normally probably had to work in the 40s. Whereas now both parents have to work, and yet they're still like, sure they have toys, but their sense of happiness is so, I would think would be so much less because of the cost of living, because of health insurance and so many other things that has increased, and yet incomes haven't kept up with it.
Yeah, so you're saying that they're gonna be happier in 1950s, is that what you're saying?
I would think they would be happier in the 40s and the 50s because they could afford more. First of all, they were spending more time at home with their family. Family was much more intact.
Yeah.
And they had income higher based on, you know, the time that they lived.
Right. So this is also in line with what the research was talking about, that it was higher back then and lower now. So we're basically at all-time low, right? Right now.
I would just think it would have been higher in the 40s, like an 8 or an 8.5.
Ah, okay. So like a numeric difference. But yeah, I'm not sure about that. But the research has shown that it's 0.3 point higher. But the point is, with all that improvement in technology, with all that, you know, healthcare, all that stuff, actually, with all that effort, we're not getting happier. That is the point. Yeah. So thank you very much for raising that. It could have been maybe even higher score, but people didn't know what they didn't know. So
That's
they're
true.
only judging based on what they knew back then.
That's true.
Next, we're gonna go to awesome stuff. So a lot of people want awesome stuff, right? Materialistic, like a nice car, comfortable home, something that you really, really want, like a wine collection or something that you're passionate about. So they did a very interesting study that was done in 1993, and then they follow up after 20 years in 2003. So they asked 12,000 freshmen about their attitude towards materialistic or non-materialistics. So 20 years later, they found out that people who were materialistic had a lower life satisfaction and they had more mental health disorder. So that was a study that basically asked people, oh, did you care more about this or did you care more about this? They separated the group into materialistic people and non-materialistic people, and then they tracked them 20 years after to find out how their life differs. So that is a very general study that talks about how getting awesome stuff or focusing on materialistic things actually don't get us more life satisfaction and may even cause us more mental health disorders. So that would say bye-bye to our number 3, awesome stuff. And number 4, we have true love. Most people want true love, don't we? This is very interesting. So let's see, true love. The highest point that true love in this term, marriage, is gonna be most satisfying for us at the time of the marriage. So 0 means like the time you married, -1 means 1 year before you got married, -2 means 2 years before you got married, and 1 means 1 year after your marriage. So okay, let's see what that means. So this chart means that, so -2 is kind of like level with 2, right? So 2 ends of the graph. So basically, there's no difference between, so no, there's, okay, let's say the difference that the marriage or true love would make is usually only within 2 years before the marriage, and then it would level off 2 years into the marriage. So 2 years into the marriage, there's no statistical difference between the happiness level of a married woman than a single woman. That's what this is saying. Yes, please. Thank you, Christine. So this is what it's saying. So a lot of people put a lot of social pressure in, you know, getting married, finding your true love and all that. And this chart basically says that it's not just marriage. It's not just true love. There's a lot more work, as we have learned about already in our relationship. There's respect, there's communication, there's like making deals, there's like communicating your needs and all that stuff. But a lot of people didn't know that. A lot of people don't know that. We still sometimes don't know that. And we thought that, okay, we need to find our love of our life and then it'll be working out. But unfortunately, that beautiful story is gonna wear out within 2 years of a marriage. So because of time, I think I'm gonna quickly go through number 5 and then see if there's any feedback or question. So number 5, you probably know, a lot of people go through, you know, diet programs, fasting, plastic surgery. I don't know what people do, but they do all sort of things to get the perfect body and perfect face. So this study in 2014 follow up 1,979 people who went through a weight loss diet program, and then separated them into 3 groups of people: people that lost weight, people that gained weight, and people that their weight stayed the same. And then follow them up in 4 years. So this chart tells you that in the beginning, right after the diet program, people who lost their weight are more happy, so less depressed. Only maybe 6% depressed mood, and people who didn't lose weight was not as happy as the people who did lose weight, and the people who gained weight were definitely the people that were least happy as soon as they finished the program. Yeah. But the gray bar is what happens 4 years later when they follow up. So interestingly, for people who did lose their weight 4 years ago, they actually have a higher depression mood percentage. And it's inversely correlated. So the people who were less depressed in the beginning became the most depressed group after 4 years. So a lot of people ask, well, why? First, I think that it's some sort of like identity crisis, that they either could not keep up with the change, or that their old habits could kick in, or like they didn't build like a supportive ecology or environment after they did the weight loss, and then they could have a lot of stress around the weight issues. So then they actually become more stressed and more depressed after 4 years. So basically it was not a lasting change of identity, or they were not able to keep the same mindset or state that they were in 4 years ago, and therefore they became the group that was most stressed and therefore most depressed.
Could it also be that because they weren't happy and they didn't love themselves in the beginning, even if they lost weight, they would find something else they didn't like about themselves?
Absolutely. That is probably also one of the biggest reasons that the people that needed this weight loss program probably wasn't as health conscious and wasn't, putting themselves first and taking care of themselves. And a lot of things would happen, and eventually they're still falling back into their old pattern, which might sometimes be depression. It could be tons of reasons, but the interesting part is the people that were least depressed became the group that was most depressed in 4 years. So that means that people who are going after the perfect body, perfect face, sometimes the impact could be good for the moment, like the moment you step out of the surgery room and you recover, ooh, this is really nice. But maybe in a few years, you're like, oh, who is this? Like, why did I do that? Oh, this doesn't look good. Now I need to do something about that now. Things like that. So this talks about plastic surgery. So again, the people before and after surgery is the comparison. And you can see that before surgery, after surgery, people actually have a lower score for physical appearance, higher rate for suicidal thoughts, higher rate for alcohol use, and conduct problem overall. So it's kind of like a similar kind of result. So let's wrap this up for today because it's almost time, 5 more minutes, and we all value time. Thank you so much for coming with your time and energy. So there's this app that you can download on your phone. It's called Rewire. So it's rewirement for your brain. There you can track these things like goals, sleep, meditate, exercise, connection, kindness, gratitude, savoring. So my challenge to you today is, from this list of things, pick up something that you are currently not doing. So if you're doing gratitude exercise already, please don't pick gratitude. So pick something that you're not doing yet to add on to your ritual.
You mean exercise?
Yes, well, you can pick anything. Just out of this list, pick something and then download the app on your phone and then start tracking it every day. So what the phone does, there's also short videos on the app that's gonna talk more about these things if you want. There's like video tips on gratitude, kindness, social connection, stuff like that. And then it's gonna be a chart where you can add 30 minutes exercise, and then you're gonna have a beautiful bar that keep tracks of your progress. So let's have a quick show of hands. You can even do sleep. Sleep just means like 7 hours minimum of sleep committed for the next week. If that's not something that you've been doing already, then you're going to see if sleeping 7 hours every day for a whole week consecutively is going to make a difference in your level of happiness and well-being. Yeah? So it could also be like 10 minutes of meditation if you've never done meditation ever in your life. It could also be like act of kindness. So normally you don't pay attention to that, but now I'm committed that I'm going to do 5 acts of kindness every day to random people. It could be a smile. It could be buying someone a coffee. It could be reaching out to a friend and offering something. It could be anything. So it could be like connection. So I'm going to reach out to someone in a sisterhood that I've never talked to, and I'm going to connect. That would also count. So just have fun and pick something that you've never done and then do it for this week. And then also track your progress for this week.
What is the last one talking about?
Savoring, yeah?
An example, please.
Yes. Savoring is basically a practice that we can do to be totally immersed in the moment. So you can do savoring in the moment to savor the moment. So it's basically really stepping out of your body right now, but then looking at the situation in a whole. What is really happening? What is the emotional impact of this moment? So for me, if I were to savor this moment right now, it is a beautiful sisterhood, sharing Friday night together, gaining wisdom, and being on our way to happiness. It's actually really profound emotionally, but oftentimes we don't savor, so we don't know what's going on, and we don't fully experience the emotions. So savoring could be part of your habit. You're like, okay, 5 times a day, I'm just gonna step out and savor, or I'm gonna savor something from the past. I'm gonna savor something from this moment right now.
Beautiful. Wow.
So are you picking savoring?
Yes, I am definitely picking that. Yeah.
Absolutely. That's a beautiful practice. So yeah, just pick something, download the app, track yourself. If you need more information, you can reach out to me if you have any questions. So we have 2 more minutes, and please tell me, what do you want to see in your next workshop?
Where do you get the app for any of those that you have listed?
It's just one app called Rewire that I took a screen cap here.
Okay.
REWI. It should be available on your phone.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, thank you.
I'm really impressed with all the statistics that you have provided tonight. Wow, that's a lot of research. Thank you.
Good research.
Thank you.
I feel like I went back to graduate school almost, like listening to
Me too, when I was preparing for this. Because statistics sometimes really speak to us, because it's a a sample group. It's something that's more objective, and like statistically we can see the difference. So it's sometimes very helpful.
Yeah.
That was great. Thank you, Candy.
Thank
It was very inspiring. Goddess of inspiration.
Thank you. So that would conclude our section today. I hope everyone have a wonderful weekend. I really appreciate your time and your energy, and please pick something from the list that you're going to work on before our next session.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Candy, is there a way that you can stop sharing so we can take a picture with you?
Oh, yes, of course. Absolutely.
Sharing.
Did I do that already?
Yes.
Okay.
Right. Thank you so much again.
Ready? Thank you, Candy.
Thank you.
There we go. Perfect.
Perfect.
Good night. Have a beautiful day, sisters.
Good night, sisters.
And Wei Li, for tomorrow, we have Anil.
We have Anil at 9 o'clock. Yes.
And is there something else?
And after that, I think Goddess of Flight wants to go over. Is that right? She wants to.
Yeah. We will stay like last week.
Yeah.
We will stay after.
Probably about the progress. Yeah.
And it's right after, and then that's it?
Yes, tomorrow, right after that, that's it. And then on Monday, we'll have the third part of our planning.
Okay, and we're still looking, I'm gonna do a Facebook Live tomorrow in the PM around 2 o'clock. We're still